As a criminal defense attorney based out of Seattle, Washington, who has handled a lot of domestic violence related cases and runs a firm that handles a lot of these kinds of cases, I want to talk about a unique situation, which is when a predominantly almost always a woman who is stuck in a abusive relationship, physically abusive relationship with a man who is stuck in a cycle of violence, meaning who is cycled through violence periodically as part of their relationship and has a very controlling and abused relationship with that man, is charged with a crime or is charged as a primary aggressor in the criminal system. This is in some ways the ultimate irony, right? It is somebody who is on all other levels being physically abused in the unique set of circumstances of this crime, being charged as the primary aggressor, and the law will protect the batterer with restraining orders and with the full backing of the law, despite, for all intents and purposes, that only adding more control and more manipulation and more problems in a relationship that the court system is pretty clear wants to stop. There's a lot of legislation in place to protect victims in domestic violence relationships and to give them ways out. And so certainly there are a whole host of ways of handling these kinds of cases, and you can go to trial and you can argue the facts, but one unique way of handling these kinds of situations, I think, is to turn the character of the domestic violence batterer against themselves. And here's how I do it, or here's one way of doing it. And it requires, however, my client to listen to me and my client to be done with the relationship completely. If they are willing to do that, then what they need to do is follow the safety plan that any woman's shelter or any woman's help group would give them if they were a victim of domestic violence. In the Northwest region, New Beginnings comes to mind, but there are a whole host of programs, nonprofits that are out there, 24-hour phone lines that will talk to a woman about, or talk to a person about, the need for a safety plan, what it is, how to put it in place, and what steps to take. But the short answer is a safety plan severs all contact with the battering partner. It requires someone to change numbers, it requires somebody to change email addresses, it requires no forwarding address, it requires no way that that batterer can get a hold of them and start contacting them again. When that happens, or when my client does that, a unique thing happens. The very controlling and abusive nature of the batterer starts to surface. And since they can't reach the victim directly, they'll go to the next best thing, which is the prosecutor's office or the domestic violence advocate that's assigned to the case for the prosecutor. And they'll start talking about the case with them. And what will inevitably happen is that the phone calls will increase in frequency, the demands for justice will increase in frequency, and the behavior will get progressively more aggressive and controlling. When I've told the prosecutor that this is going to happen, that I warn that this is the dynamics that's going on, and as I predict the behavior surfaces in this manner, the respect I get as defense counsel and the speaking platform that I can talk to a prosecutor from just has gone up exponentially. Because no prosecuting agency wants to encourage and add to the power dynamic problems of a domestic violence, of a batterer's relationship. These are why a lot of police get called, these are why murders happen, these are why a lot of social ills happen that a prosecutor office wants to stamp out. So by exposing this relationship for what it is and having a batterer act in a way that is consistent with being a batter clearly, I have had remarkable resolutions on these kinds of cases using this technique. Again, it requires a victim to be interested in really truly severing the relationship, following through in a safety plan. And in my case, I always require them to start counseling with a woman's group that talks to them and helps share with wisdom about how they ended up in this relationship and how they can prevent themselves from re-entering the relationship and hopefully in the future not re-engaging this type of relationship, because there are healthy, loving, and functioning relationships out there. Just they're not with domestic violence batterers. I hope this helps. Thank you.